Alright everyone, hello. Welcome to Hugs Part 5, Version 4. Let's get right into it. We're gonna go through the chronicles, you're gonna learn who I am, you're gonna learn my history, you're gonna learn about the theory, and then we're gonna do a little bit of research on hugs. Pretty self-explanatory here. Introduction. That's me. That's right. There I am. I know no one huggier than myself. There's my MBTI, if that matters. As we can see, I do like hugs quite a bit. But realistically, it's off the charts. Now you might be wondering, what's happening here on the left? What's going on? Well, this is a bunch of profile pictures I've had, because since about October, Pro Hugs has appeared everywhere, and this includes Lin Ling from To Be Hero X and Brief from Panty and Stocking. Now, things I've done in the past include Hugs Part 1, Hugs Part 2, Hugs Part 3, and Hugs Part 4, and a bunch of other presentations. Now, as a hug connoisseur, not a hog connoisseur. I'm not a farmer. God no. I have the hug theorem, the cuddle theorem, and the spontaneous physical touch theorem shortened to spontaneous. Really, what all of this does is that it takes a bunch of factors into account and it outputs out a whole number that is like the stat boost from hugs. And when I say stat boost, I mean, say you're playing a video game and you drink a potion and it gives you like +5 strength for like an hour or something. It's a similar concept here with hugs for me. I feel it as a stat boost, if you will. Now, in case you're wondering what hug type is, this is nicely represented by my hug tier list, which we'll see later in the future. And by the way, a hectonewton is 100 newtons of force. Now, back in the trenches, high school, things were rough the year after the pandemic, but also because being in rural Minnesota meant that I had to wait weeks between hugs. And I was already thinking that, wait a minute, because I'm a guy and an only child, and a bunch of other things are relevant, this means mental turmoil. What this middle thing is basically that I think everyone should be okay with hugs. And I think if you're good friends, you should still be okay with cuddling. But society thinks cuddling is basically just romance unless it's two girls. And as for people of the same gender hugging, that's fine. But if they're different genders, that's where this bit comes in. And it's like, usually it's romance, but then it's like the best of friends. I think it should be more acceptable because gender shouldn't need to matter. As we can see, people are new, I liked hugs, and look at me, being responsible in the pandemic. Standing, not 6 feet apart, but a yard or so, because this person scares me. It's the honest truth. But hey, we hugged eventually like 6 months after this, and so all was good. Well, no, yeah. So because of this, we can actually see my graduating class right here. If you're saying, wow, that's really small, you'd be correct. Because being in rural Minnesota means you get the luxury of knowing everyone in your graduating class, whether you like to or not. If you're wondering why only 4 people are circled, that's every person of color. Yeah. Now, fast forward a couple of years, it's fall 2023, what I call the peak hug season. Back when I was tracking how many hugs I got each day, which apparently is creepy. Well, no, I wasn't told it was creepy. I'm like, maybe keep that to yourself. And I'm like, it's data. And I think it's pretty useful and cool to share data, because you know where else you share data? That's right, science. And as a computer scientist, saying that I shouldn't share my data is almost like insulting my college career. Just kidding. But back in the heyday, I would wait less than a week between hugs. And there were over 24 days with over 9 hugs, with an average of 5 hugs per day. It was such a great time, minus a cataclysmic event that happened the day before Halloween. All this chart means is that I rate every day on a scale from -20 to +20. The bigger the number, the better the day. And so I'm like, is there a correlation between number of hugs and how good or bad the day was? A little, as we can see with this trend line here in the middle that I am highlighting. Now we're at the present day. Usually it's probably a week until the next hug, probably within a month, but now that I have become an alumnus and employed, this is rough. But hey, look at me, and with all my other friends who have graduated and are also employed. Now we'll take a brief intermission, because I'm sure you're wondering, this guy is really into hugs. Why does he think like that? Well, luckily for you, I made a couple flowcharts to help get you up to speed on how I like to operate. So that way you too can have the cheat sheet to how I operate inside of my wacky little brain of mine. The main highlights is that hugs, joy, anxiety, and stability are really the whole core of everything. And I even included a key here because things are color-coded. I started making a new flowchart, but this is still a work in progress. But as we can see, the essentials are there, realistically. Now, being in rural Minnesota, my opinions differ from basically everyone else's. Because I think that, everyone should be okay with a handshake. You should be more accepting of hugs and cuddling and whatever happens beyond that. Now, as for queer platonic relationships, they generally see hugs and cuddling as a bit more accepted and okay. If it's two people of the same gender that aren't guys, it's usually pretty okay. But then if it's people of different genders, then American society doesn't really like that. Rural Minnesota's like, oh, a boy and a girl are hugging, ooh, they're dating, which is kind of scummy. And thus, I disagree with this. Now, why am I highlighting people of different genders? Because most of my friends are not guys. We'll get to why that is in a future slide. But because of that, I get to contend with what I love to call the iffy society disagreement zone, where basically most of society does not think hugs and cuddling are as accepted as I think they should. Which is greatly unfortunate. Now, to clarify, someone who is huggy is someone who likes hugging people generally. A where's my hug at person is probably huggy, but not all huggy people are like that. Why do I make that specific clarification? Because I didn't know the where's my hug at person existed until college, and also how much social stigma comes from being a dude and liking hugs. I'm a dude, even though my little VTuber avatar here begs to differ. Now, I do have to disclose my bias like any good scientific research study. In high school, the most touch I observed were between two bros, like, yo, you did good at that game yesterday, or whatever, and it's sprody, bro-like behavior that aren't really emotionally in tune. Because of this, I didn't really care about the guys in my high school at all. And I'm like, I don't really get along with these people because they care about stuff that I don't care about. And so because of that, it's hard for me to find new friends, and it requires a lot of time because of that bias from high school. That's right, I'm a misandrist. I hate all men, myself included. Hate's a strong word, but you get the idea. Now, how much people in the world are huggy? Well, that's actually a tough question to figure out. And so this really crummy pandemic poll doesn't really answer what I'm looking for. So I'll do it myself. I made my own poll on Reddit and got over 300 replies. And about 1/3 of respondents would consider themselves a huggy person. Very interesting. Now we're on to the theory section. But don't worry, it's actually pretty entertaining. Now, on Wikipedia, if you search for cuddling, cuddling takes you to the cuddling subsection of the hug page, which further supports my stance that a cuddle is really just a specific kind of hug, and should be more acceptable in society than it actually is. And there's cuddling events that exist too. Wikipedia agrees with me, the like quote-unquote neutral ground of the internet. Now as for this slide, what this basically highlights is that this first article, suppose you have an argument with someone, you talk to a friend about it, and you hug it out. Your mood will get better faster than if you didn't hug your friend who you post argument with a separate person. And that's exactly how it works for me. Like, I feel any kind of strong emotion, I want to hug to express joy, I want to hug to express sadness, comfort, to not be as angry. Hugs do all that for me. Now what about virtual hugs? Turns out virtual hugs can work. The main thing is that assuming you're wearing a VR headset or a mixed reality headset, as long as you are used to using that technology and aren't completely new, then you'll still get some of the benefits from a physical hug, even if it's all in a digital world. Pretty neat. But now we're on the present day. We can say that I have many friends, but most of the hugs are centered on only a few of them. I want to fix this. I want to get more hugs, more friends that are okay with platonic cuddling, / more cuddles in general. How am I going to get more hugs, more friends, more emotional fulfillment? Let's talk through the solutions. So we look inward. What if I try and change myself? Well, I tried many times, but I just can't decouple hugs from my personal identity. It was too big of an influence in high school and middle school, and for lack of better words, I can't live without them. So that went completely wrong. And thus the hug tier list was born. From the single most memorable hug I've had to basically a glomp. Then notice how each tier has a number. This corresponds back to the hug theorem earlier. If you have questions, comment down below. I believe in you. This is hugging someone with long hair. That's hugging someone around the waist, a bear hug. Someone saying no to a hug is better than me hugging acquaintances. Alright? If I'm too pushy with hugs, just say no. I can handle it. I have a good enough support system to where, like, you say no, that's okay. Maybe you're not feeling it, maybe you don't like hugs. That's completely alright. And I don't mean to make you want to hug me. That's not what this is about. I'm trying to target society in general, not the people who don't like hugs. Because that's okay. There are many reasons why you don't like hugs, and you don't need a reason to not like hugs. Alright? So if I can't change myself, mankind knew he cannot change society. And Guilty Gear was right. We can't change society. That's extremely difficult. And you know who we can blame in America? That's right, those nasty, scummy, dirty Puritans ruined everything in America. From the strong work ethic to the individualistic culture to being performatively nice so others think you are good even if you're only looking good for appearance sake. You know where this also translates to? Physical touch in close relationships. Notice how across partner, female friend, and male friend, America is kind of middle of the board, so to speak. Like, I would say most touchy cultures would be like parts of South America, Latin America, parts of Europe. But then parts of East Asia aren't really that touchy at all. America's kinda in the middle. Now, why else is this relevant? Because effective interpersonal touch depends on whether it's like a side hug, a full hug, a kiss, or like stroking someone's arm. It also matters the relationship of that other person. If it's your partner, a child, be it your child or a family child, if the person's a female friend or a male friend, I know it doesn't specify non-binary friends, that's just what the research study categorized people. Fortunately, didn't have a non-binary category. I tried my best, but this is what we have to work with. Notice how consistently on the bottom, that's the male friend. And you know who's a male friend? Me. So that's right, once again, research has proven that literally being a guy makes it less likely that you're touched by other people. Which, in the context of hugs, I'm saying is bad. In the context of being groped and harassed, it's actually good. Benefits and drawbacks, benefits and drawbacks. They're not one-to-one, they're not the same. I'm basically just focusing on hugs, and it's like, hey, I'm a male friend. I get hugged less often than if I was, say, not a dude. That's actually a fun fact. Why I briefly considered being trans. And so if we can't change society, what if we move to a different one? This is quite difficult because it really depends on where you go, because East Asia, not great. Europe is a mixed bag. You also have to get integrated with the culture. Now we have some rant times I'll try and make quick. Gender does matter, and there's a potential hypersexualization of hugs. I noticed this in high school, and because some people view hugs as intimate. And my response to that is you change the type of hug. Maybe instead of a bear hug or hugging for half a minute, you just do a brief side hug. That's still a hug. Half a hug technically, but it's still a hug. There's also a gender inequality, which I noticed in high school. Who's hugging who? Girls will hug each other, but you won't just see like girls hugging their guy friends too often, at least in my high school, or guys hugging each other. Again, from what I've seen in my high school. There's also pressure to say yes, especially with family. Say your aunt or uncle comes to visit, and your mom's like, alright, give Uncle Ricky a hug. You know, like, give your kid the option to say no. Like parenting, there's a right and wrong way of doing it. You gotta give the person the power of choice. And I've tried to do this, and apparently people feel pressured. And for that, I'm like, come on. Yes, I'm tall, but am I really that intimidating? I try my best to not be intimidating and accommodating. And so if you feel pressured to say no, just please tell me no, okay? I can handle it. I've been told worse shit in my life, okay? Come on. There's also an individualistic culture, which leads to isolation, which means less hugs, less relying on other people. And this is a direct quote from my mother. You're the only one that you can rely on. Pretty self-explanatory. There's also an overcorrection which ties with consent culture. Maybe asking for a hug can be more awkward than just going for it. I was told this by one friend, and so I'm like, in my head, I'm like, wait, consent isn't sexy? What's going on? We're in the 21st century. Consent is where it's at. You're telling me, someone who probably has autism, you're telling me to try and read your mind and go for the hug in the right moment. Do not put your faith in me to read your mind. Communicate, please. Touch as utility. This is a problem because usually, like, say someone's family died, or someone just got first place in the Olympics or something. You'll hug them for celebration and comfort. But what if someone just, like, maybe got harassed on their way to work, or something less intense than a family member dying or winning a humongous competition? Hugs should be more acceptable for everyday comfort. So, proposed solution 3. What if I make more friends? This is kind of difficult because I already have a lot of IRL friends, and maybe 10% of those friends like hugs. And out of all of my friends, there's only really one friend that I see often enough who also likes cuddles. One friend. This is a bit of a problem. But hey, look at all these friends I have. I will proudly defend all of these people as my friend. Now, why does this slide exist? Well, fun fact. If you remember the cataclysmic event of fall 2023, those people said you should get more friends out of our group network of friends. And in my head, even though I desperately wanted to say it back, but I was trying to not cry, I have a lot of other friends. It's just that they're employed, work a whole 9 to 5, maybe live not in Minnesota. I can't just hang out with them as often than the friend group that's also in college that I can actually see every day. I don't have the luxury or privilege to be able to just go down to Chicago or whatever and hang out with those friends more often. I just don't have that ability. And so what if, to get more hugs, to get more cuddles, we focus on my current friends? Surprise, surprise, this is where it's at. However, everyone has graduated or is employed. And so because of this, I would say 2 friends that I have are okay with cuddling. 2. One lives in Hugo, which is a very far distance away, about half an hour from downtown Minneapolis. And then I have another who lives in St. Frickin' Cloud. One of them I see more than 2 times a year. The other I don't. And you would guess the one I see more often is the one who I actually talk to almost every day. Shocker. And so what can we learn from this? Is that if someone is far away, it's a lot harder to have those consistent hangouts and hugs or cuddling. And it's that consistency that really mentally stabilizes me. And so you know what this means? The probability of someone being okay with cuddles exists if the person really likes hugs. And so what this all means and ties together is that significant others, consistency, stability, not being as far, could be the solution. But we live in a digital world. A lot of people are meeting online. Then you have me, someone who's chronically online, and yet to date has only asked out 5 people and has never been in a relationship. Wow. Go me. Go me. And so this leads us to our secret final solution. What if I date and get a girlfriend? Oh man, you gotta be joking, because dating apps are not working. People in person is not going well. Because I can count on one hand the number of people I asked out. I don't even know if love is real. It could be. Let me specify. I don't know if love is real for me. I genuinely don't know, because I like hugs and cuddling so much. I don't think it's love, and because of that, and where most of my feelings towards people are, I really want to hug you because I care, and I really want to cuddle you because I care and I feel safe when I'm with you, is not the exact same thing as love, in my opinion. Have I felt what could be described as love? I don't know. But to date, the 5 people I asked out, 2 were not mentally ready to date. And then one of them got a boyfriend, the other one got a girlfriend. One person said that she was just acting friendly with everyone because she was acting friendly to me. I'm like, oh, maybe she's into me, just throwing something completely crazy out the window. There's one person who's a super brief friends with benefits, and by super brief I mean a week. And by the way, nothing happened because I got an anxiety attack and then it crumpled. And then the last person I asked out was a lesbian, which is fine. But also, would have been nice to know that a little bit earlier before I asked them out. And so we reached the research study. That's right, the creme de la creme. The study is really simple. 1 week. Is a week as normal? I ask people for hugs, I hug people, it's normal. But then in week 2, this is where it gets interesting. I don't ask people for hugs at all. I suppress all the hugs I want to ask. Will this influence the amount of hugs I get between weeks? I predicted that in the experimental week, there will be less hugs because there's less people asking for hugs, namely removing me out of the equation. So let's look at the data and the results. They just might surprise you. So in the control week, there were 23 hugs, and I tracked a bunch of other stuff which you can pause and investigate. Pretty normal. The experimental week, we have a few spikes, which is a little weird, but wait, what's this? 23 hugs in the experimental week. What the hell is going on? I didn't ask anyone for hugs this week. I suppressed all the hugs I wanted to ask. What happened? Why are they the same? Turns out, in the experimental week, I hung out with my best friend, but in the control week, I didn't. So what if I subtracted all the hugs from my best friend to make both weeks even. What happens? That's right, you guessed it. It's kind of similar to 9/11. It crashes straight down to 9. That's right, my best friend single-handedly in a week accounted for more than half of the hugs that week. Truly outstanding. And after subtracting that outlier, my hypothesis was proven true. My research and science was successful, and my hypothesis was proven. We did it. And you know what this also means? That I suppressed about 10 hugs a week. Most hugs were short. I have some stuff in the future to contend with. I have some cool pictures that I took. And the really important thing is that one person really just can shake it all up. Because if you go back here, this further supports my significant other theory. Getting a significant other leads to that stability, leads to those frequent hugs and physical contact. And so, science was done today. You can find me somehow. Here's my Works Cited page, because yes, all those academic articles I did cite in here. Thank you very much. And so, that is the end. Science was conducted, and we have gone through this journey together. So remember, if I have to leave you with just one thing at the end of this presentation, who wants a hug? Thanks for watching.